This video is basal ganglia versus the cerebellum. The basal ganglia versus cerebellum. So these guys are part of a pair. Why? Because they both are for coordination. They both coordinate movement. So the key words here are coordination and movement. I used to get them confused, and so I had a conversation with Dr. Brewer and Dr. Ray, and it was very helpful for me to be able to specifically distinguish these, figure out what's different between them. And it's also, I think it's fairly important to know. So basically the difference is before versus during. Before versus during what movement? So those are the two key words that differentiate these things. They both coordinate movement, but the basal ganglia coordinates it before, while the cerebellum coordinates it during. I never noticed that, but you even have a theme here with B, C, D. So they're kind of in order, right? B comes before C and D, or B comes before C. So the basal ganglia functions before the cerebellum does when it comes to movement. So why do I say before? It's because the basal ganglia is what allows you to decide whether or not you're going to do the movement or not. So you decide to initiate the movement. That's what the basal ganglia does. Versus the cerebellum is what keeps the movement smooth and steady while you're doing it. So once you've already decided to do the movement. So it maintains the steadiness of the movement. Initiate, maintain, decide to initiate versus keep it steady. So for an example on how these can manifest, like in a question, it's like if they have like Parkinsonism, right? Where you're telling them, or like they are bradykinetic, which means they move slow. When they need to do something, they're just like slow to do it. It's like more difficult for them to decide to do it, right? Because this basal ganglia decides to initiate movement, so it's what makes you start a movement, but it's also what makes you like decide not to do a movement. So it controls whether or not you start the movement in the first place. So it doesn't just mean start, it's the starter and it's also the stopper. It stops you from starting the movement. That's what it means to decide. But yeah, so somebody with Parkinsonism versus somebody with the cerebellum, it would be like what they call cerebellar ataxia, which obviously is that, but it's not about the name, it's about like what it actually is. What it actually is you ask somebody to point to your finger with their finger, or you ask them to touch their nose. You ask them to touch an object, and when they're moving their finger and moving their hand to reach towards the object, their hand is like shaking and stuff. It's like shaking and wiggling, and they can't keep it on course. They can't keep steady. They can't maintain a smooth linear trajectory of movement. That means their problem is during the movement. They have a cerebellar problem. Versus with Parkinsonism, it's not about the movement being like wobbly and unsteady. It's about, with Parkinsonism, with the basal ganglia problem, it's about the ability to even initiate the movement. So they're just like slow to even start. It's kind of like, yeah, they have a resting tremor, but that's a resting tremor, right? That's why Parkinsonism has a resting tremor, not an action tremor. They don't shake while they're doing stuff. Why? Because they don't have a cerebellar problem. They don't have a problem maintaining the steadiness of their movement. They have a problem initiating the movement in the first place. So they don't have an action tremor, also known as cerebellar ataxia, same sort of thing. Rather, they have bradykinesia. They're slow to even start the movement. It's like, come on, man, are you going to do it or not? They're just like slow and having trouble. So it's because their basal ganglia has trouble initiating the movement. It has trouble deciding whether to do it or not. So this, out of the whole thing I drew, this is the big part, I think most helpful part, before versus during movement. Before movement versus during movement. That's the difference between the basal ganglia and the cerebellum.